Hello guys, in today's video we're gonna see how to set up routing in the newest version of Angular, so stay tuned. Here in front of me and actually on the screen, we have a basic application generated by using Angular CLI and typing ng-new and the name of the application. In my case, it is routing standalone components, but it can be anything you type there. So nothing has changed here. So this is everything generated by Angular CLI. So you can follow it by generating the same component for yourself. But before we start talking about the new approach here, let's see what happened in the past and what is different here. So I'm opening another application that I generated a long time ago that has the routing set up. So what's the difference here? In the past, we had app module here with everything inside it, like imports, browser module, app routing module, etc. And also we had app routing module where we stored all of our routes and configurations there. So that's something that we had in the past. But from now, in the newest version, by default, we don't have any modules here, as you can see. So what's going on here? Angular team has changed the strategy, and they encourage us to use standalone components that are now by default true, actually. So we cannot see any modules here. In my opinion, standalone components are better, faster, and more flexible than the previous ones we had. Because in the past, we had to import our components into app module and do everything with them. But right now, when we generate a component, we can move that component across our application and be sure that that component is going to work as expected without changing anything in the app module or any module where we imported our component. But what is important, we can still use modules in Angular if we actually need them. So they are not out, we can still use them, but it is better and the newer approach to use these standalone components here. So right now I'm gonna open a terminal here, so you can drag this here up, or you can press Ctrl and backtick on your keyboard, which is a button below the escape button. So right now I'm going to generate two components here and set up routing into them like this. So I'm typing ng-new as a g as a generate, and I'm now typing the name, for example, first. So this is going to be the first component. As you know, Angular's CLI is actually ng-c as a component, and we have to just type it first, for example. So as you know, Angular is adding component next to the name of every component here. So if we generated app first, that is actually app first component. If you type it generate first component, then you will get first component. So that's the reason why I typed ng-gc and the first. And right now I'm also going to generate a second component, and you guess it, call it second. Okay, hit enter, wait for it to be generated. And now we can see first and second components here. So we can also go to our first component, and you can see that is also standalone components, and also our second component is standalone. So that's something new. Okay, right now we can open our application to see what we actually have. So running ng S as a ser, we can actually build our application and open it. But if we add the flag O, it is going to automatically build and open our application after building it. So it is opened in my browser. Let me bring it here to you. I'll zoom a bit. Okay, we have our application on the port 4200, as you can see here. So we are going to remove everything from here and to make some changes and set up actually our routing there. Okay. Now I'll remove here this. Okay. Now I'll remove everything from here, from the app component, and I will just add h2 and call it testing routing. Okay, testing routing, and below we have to add app router outlet. Actually, I said app router. So we have to add a router outlet here. So what is router outlet? Router outlet is holding our routes and showing the content of our routes inside of this here. So we have a testing routes here, and also we have here we can add some navigation here. So I'm gonna add something like nav, okay, as a navigation, and I will add a list, and I'll add 2 list items, and actually anchor link, that is actually a router link. That is going to be, in our case, let's say first component. Okay, it's going to be a first component, and we can say router link active. This is just to be active, and also we can just add a name here and call it first component. And actually, instead of writing this here, I'm just going to duplicate this here, and I'll call it second component, and also change the name here, second component. So we have first and second component. If we save this and go back to our browser, we're going to see that we have our testing routing here. I'll zoom it a bit here. We have a testing routing here, and we have a first component and the second component. So we have to set up routing, because if we just try to open first component here, we got nothing here, because we don't have a routing for this. So going back to the Visual Studio Code and the newest approach here, we are actually going to add some configuration to the app routes here. So like in the app routing module, now here we have our routes array, the same one that we had previously there. So we can just do the following. We can add an object here, and we can say that we have a path that is actually first component, and it is actually calling our first component here, that is component, first component. Now we have set up first component routing for the first component, and after this I'll just duplicate this and add second component here, second component. So just let me call it second component, and now we can save it here. And after this, we are navigating back, actually going back to our browser, and we can see that we have first component and the second component. So they are not clickable right now, but I'll show you what was the trick here. So what we have to do right now here, we have to go to our app component here, and here we have to add some imports as well. So in the past you were importing these things in the app module, but right now we are doing it in the component itself. So the next thing is going to be a router link, and this router link will allow us to open our component to actually have a clickable components here, as you can see. So first works and the second works. So you can see that after adding this router link here, we are able to use that router link here and to have these links actually clickable. And another thing that I'm going to add is here, router link active actually. Router link active. So this is actually just going to see if our link is active and to add something to it. So for example, if we want to change styling of active link and so on and so on. So this is it right now. And a bonus tip, I'm going to show you also how to lazy load these components. So right now I'm inspecting this, and I'm going to open this inspector here. Just let me bring it here, and I'll just add it to the dock and just move it a bit up. Then we will be able to track our application. So going back to our Visual Studio Code here, and here in the app routes, I'm instead of second component here, I'm not gonna call it like this. So what am I doing here? Right now, I'm using a different approach and actually using a load component key. Load component, as you can see here. And now, after this, I'm just using an arrow function that is going to import something that is actually our component. So first, and then first component. So this is the first component, and we're just going to say then, and you can call it, let's say C as a component, and actually just I have to add this C, and to say C and first component here. Usually we're using it like a M before because it was module, but right now I'm using like a C here for the component. Then after doing that, we're actually having lazy loaded our component. To be able to test that, we just have to go back to our browser. And right now, I'll just clear everything. And let's see the network tab here. Okay, I'll zoom it a bit. Okay, and now when I click on the first component, we see that nothing has changed because we have already downloaded a bundle here and the content, as you can see. But when I click on the second component, take a look right now, we can see the chunk here, actually, from routes. That is actually our component. So we can see from the first component, we have this chunk, and we have the data here regarding the loading. So okay, so actually our component is going to be lazy loaded. So first one, again, I'll reload. We have everything here. First component does nothing, but the second component loads a chunk here. So which means our routing works as expected. So this is it when it comes to the routing in this video, but in the next one we can see another different approaches and some advanced things. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video, and see you in the next one. Bye.